welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program we have Richard T. Bear. I'm excited to have T. Bear back on the program. I've had him on a few years ago, and we dug even deeper this time than we did last time. He is a wealth of information, has so many amazing stories that we're going to get to, and I look forward to doing that. It's an extended interview, so brace yourself. I'm not going to spend too much time up front on the intro, but I will share a little bit about what's going on right now. With me, I had a very busy weekend. My son had a carnival on Friday night at his school. That was okay. Not a lot notable there, but he had a good time, I think. And yesterday, I went to my kid's cousin's 8-year-old birthday, and it was a 2-hour drive, and it was really stressful and exhausting just getting there because it was supposed to be an hour and a half, but we were sat gridlocked for 30 minutes, and it was gross. And then after that, went to see Ben Queller. And I'm not gonna talk about that much, but you can check out footage of that, stories from about Ben Queller and that show in the next episode of Concert Pipeline. And then today was VacaCon. There's a convention in town in Vacaville called VacaCon, a little mini comic book convention like Comic-Con or something, but pretty small. You can cover the whole bases in an hour, and we did, really. And the notable guest this year was Corey Feldman, and I'd been reached out to by his publicist a couple months back to do an interview with him, and I was like, sure, I'll do an interview with Corey Feldman. We went back and forth a little bit, and he has a musical career as well, and then nothing came of it. It fell through the cracks. Reached back out when I noticed he was going to be here in town, and didn't hear back. So I was like, okay, but went, and I was like, I'm interested because he's going to be here. Maybe an interview could happen. You never know. So I bought and read his memoir, which, man, there's some dark stuff in that. He's been through a lot, and it was a pretty good read, so I'll give it that. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll meet him at the con. I waited in line to meet him for 15-20 minutes while my kids walked around the floor with their other parents, and he didn't show in the time that I was there, and I wanted to spend time with my kids, so I left. But then he showed up, and I saw, the line hadn't moved at all, and autographs were $60, and pictures were $60, and I was like, I'm good. But he had a turnout, and so I'm happy for Corey Feldman that he's got an audience. We all got to pay our bills, right? It just wasn't for me, so didn't get a chance to say hey to Corey Feldman, but got a good story out of it anyway. And then when I was home, I got a text, and my son won some prizes from the convention, from the police department, I think, some Ninja Turtles toys. And so I biked back over and went and picked those up for him as well. So that's the excitement of my weekend. But we should talk to Richard T. Bear. He has a new album called The Way of the World. Recommend checking that out. We talk about it pretty in depth, as well as his next album, which isn't even out there yet, but we dig into that a little bit as well. So many other great stories that he has to share. So without further ado, let's bring Richard T. Bear into the program.
Steve Jones.
T. Bear, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. How you doing?
Good. Apologies, I didn't see you made it into the room, and it didn't notify me, or I didn't see it pop up anyway. So thanks for just.
Hey, I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your friend.
Who did I lose?
You said on the Burrito Brothers thing.
Yeah. Not a death, but yeah.
Oh.
Not a death, but a falling out.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, after 20 years.
That sucks.
So yeah, it it's tough. Someone you're very close with to lose, whether through death or it's just complete separate. It's like they're there, they exist in the nether, but not in your life anymore. And there's a gap. You know what I mean?
That there is a hole there.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and thank you for checking out the podcast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like to know who I'm talking to. And congratulations on your
Yes.
daughter's lemonade stand.
Thank you. You did pay attention. Yes, they did well on the lemonade stand, made some money, and it's good. So, um,
Great.
yeah, yeah. We chatted a couple years back around your last album, first resurgence album, I guess you could say, and so it's yep. There we go. Fresh Bear Tracks.
Yeah, that one.
That's the one, which is great. And so we'll touch back on that a little bit, but obviously we have some new music to talk about also, and many other great things. But first off, how's your day treating you? How are you doing right now?
Well, I've got my red cup, so that's a good thing. I got my
That is,
coffee.
you're prepared.
I am prepared. I've been up late all week. I've gotten into a kind of a writing blast, and I started the next album, the writing of it.
You're
So
already. I love it. You're on to the next already. Not
yeah,
slowing down.
I'm about maybe three-quarters of the way through with all the songs. Yeah,
Oh, that is great. So
it's
you're in the zone. Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be called The Book of Secrets.
Ooh. Okay. Uh, I like it. And so do you, I mean, is it just pure energy when you're in that zone, or is it you can't turn it off?
I
What is
can't
that
turn
like
it
for
off.
you?
I can't turn it off. When it comes, it comes, and I just follow that. I just lock in. And mostly, lyrics first. So, I write the words first, and then I'll get an idea for the music. Um,
Yeah. So you don't hear the music. What do you go? Do you kind of bring the music out in the studio like when you're recording, or do you kind of revisit the lyrics and kind of get that feeling?
a little both, actually. You kind of touched on it. Yeah, you hit it right on the head. Um, it's it kind of flows through me. I some of my best songs I've written in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It just comes out. It's right there. It's like on the Way of the World album. There's a bonus track on there called Red Harvest. And
Yeah.
that's what happened when I turned on CNN that week. Russia had invaded the Ukraine, and I saw that the horror of it all, and all these women and children trying to get on a train and buses to leave the country, and the men had to stay because they were conscripted to be in the armed force. And I just started writing, and I walked over to the piano, and 10 minutes later it was done. It
Yeah.
was,
You just had to get it out. Like you're like, I have this thing that's just I need to write about it, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you don't do it, then when will you do it? Yeah.
Does it always come out for you in music, or do you just kind of channel like diary style, just free form?
You know,
Uh,
it was never back in the day when dinosaurs ruled the earth, and I was in it in those days. I was distracted by so many different things, and I had my head into listening. Oh, it's got to sound like this, because A&R guys would go like, well, look at the charts now. Look at and I was stupid enough to listen to them, and they took me down, the wrong river in many cases. And and now I just follow my heart, and I follow my mind. I don't look at what I don't follow anybody. I just if it needs to be said, it's going to get said, because I have no filters on my mouth as I get older. Thank
yeah,
God for that.
you don't need to.
Thank God for that, right?
Yeah, don't have to impress anybody. You don't have to,
No, no, no. I'm just doing it for the pure art, and the love of the art. I think it's really, really important that that singer-songwriters um come out with their stuff, because there's so much crap out there. There's some great stuff out there, but 90% of it's crap. And
yeah,
the
yeah.
10% that's great, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm challenged a lot when I kind of with where we're at with music, when one artist can kind of dominate all 10 spots in the top 10, of sort of thing. And it's just like, what are we doing? We're like, there's no room for anybody else. There's new music, I mean, it's tough.
I've because we were speaking of charts and dominance. I with the Way of the World album, it got released, and we had a single on there, "A Change Would Do Me Good," and the Hit Tracks 100, whatever they're called, Hit Tracks 100 in the Netherlands, picked up on that, and they were really, very generous to me on the first album. They Give It Up went to #1 on their chart and hit 100 on
Yeah.
the Bear Fresh Bear Tracks. And
Which tracks?
yeah, on this one, they picked "A Change Would Do Me Good," and it entered the charts kind of high. And then I was out on the road with Walter Trout at the time, because I've been playing keyboards in his band, and he had the #1 and the #2 in that chart, with a song called "Bleed" and another song called "Broken" with Beth Hart off his
Ah, that's nice.
album Broken. It's a great duet,
Yeah.
Broken, and it's a great story. And he's #1 and #2. And I was looking at him and I said, well, look down here, because I'm number, like, 40 something. It just entered the charts. And I said, watch out, Walter. I'm going to
Coming for you.
challenge you for the top spot. And he smiled and laughed at me, because we're really good friends. And every night he would say, when we were touring, he'd say, okay, it's #1 in the Hit 100 and #2, and then and oddly enough, his son was a drummer. He was #4 in a band.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like the Trouts had like the
Dominating.
dominance, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm up to number like 7, and then #6 and #4. He's still, one of them fell out, but one of them still #1. Beth Hart and his thing.
Yeah, of course.
And I looked at Walter. I said, "It won't be long now, Walter." And sure enough, Easter Sunday, I'm #1, and he's fallen off the charts. And Joe Bonamassa is right below me. So I was
there
like,
you go.
yes.
You did it. You did it. That's a cool collaboration. I need to check that
Yeah,
song
and if
out.
you look at that chart, it's all diversity. The whole thing is diversity. I don't know what it means over here, but over there, it's pretty interesting, because they have a lot of people that never get recognition over here on that chart.
Have you played over there?
I've played. Yeah, I was over there last spring with Walter, and we played 13 countries.
Wow.
And yeah, and we played 13 countries in, like, oh my God, it was like 33 or 34 days. We had 31 shows or 30 shows. And
wow.
yeah, I like it over there. The people are rabid for live music. They just eat it with a spoon. They're like, they show up, they pay whatever it takes to get in, and they just to the front, and they're so happy to hear music, and it's so, like, raw, and it feels really good. You look at them and they're just having the time of their lives, and then you go, well, that's why I'm here. That's why I do this. It's like vitamins for your soul.
You don't always get it here the same way. Too many options, too many shows, too many venues, all of that.
Well, especially in LA. Unfortunately, where I live, people do not support live music here. It's brutal here.
It's all about the
I was
movies.
just like, you're up in where, Napa?
I'm right outside of Napa now. I used to be in Napa, but I moved right outside. Yeah, Vacaville.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm diverging off into
No,
the hinterlands. Do we have time?
Yeah, we got all the time.
Okay. So, well, with Walter Trout, he called me up and he said, I need I need to replace my keyboard player, and I got this tour in Europe, and it's coming right up. And I know Walter for like 30 years. And he said, can you do it? And I said, yeah, I'd love to do it with you, Walter. He said, but you're going to be a sideman. Just remember that. I said, of course, I'm in your band. And he's been very generous with me. He just can't say enough about me on stage. And then the band walks off the stage and he leaves me a solo slot in the middle of of the night, and I play and sing, and then he'll walk out, kind of look at me and whip a harmonica out and play along with me or something. And then the band comes. And it's been like that, and it's been great. And I was in your neighborhood 2 or 3 weeks ago. I played yeah, we played, let's see, we played Scottsdale at the Musical Instrument Museum. And then we went to San Diego, and then San Juan Capistrano, Agora, and then we went to Bakersfield, Fresno, Stockton, Oakland, somewhere else up there, and then Morro Bay. And so we were all the way up in I guess in your area.
Yeah, not too
passing
far.
through your area, and the people were great out there. I mean, in LA, not so much. It's like, I have a Facebook page, and one day on the Facebook page, I did the David Letterman top 10 list. Remember that?
Yeah.
To do
Yeah,
top
yeah.
10
Oh, I
reasons?
remember. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I put like top 10 reasons why you don't come to a live T-Bear show in LA, and
Give me a couple. Give me a couple.
I'll give you a couple. Okay. There's a 20% chance of rain.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
When you're single again, I'll come to your show.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a good one. I only see tribute bands.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I only go to places where it's free.
that's on point. Yep.
Then there was one that was like, I have to get up in the morning.
Yeah, it's a big commitment. We got big commitments here.
Yeah. I've got to go to the vet with my pet.
Yeah, at 8 o'clock at night. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a couple more that were really funny. A canary needs shots. Oh shit, there was a couple more that were not like that. That was so silly. Oh, you never put me on your guest list.
Yeah. That too, right? Come on.
Stuff like that. But that's the LA thing, man. It's the LA hug. Fork on the left, knife in the back.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, before we get too far in music, I do want to congratulate you. I think you're probably about 40 years sober.
I just celebrated 41.
41. Okay.
Yeah, in February. I was in New Zealand when it happened.
Oh,
And,
congratulations.
and I was in Australia as well. And the whole band, we walked into the hotel, and the guy in Australia, they're very, very manly there. And I walked up and I said, can I get a non-alcoholic beverage? He says, what a pussy.
You don't know. He's like, you don't know that.
Really? He says, yeah, we serve manly drinks here. And I said, okay. And then my friend, the bass player, says he's allergic to alcohol. He breaks out. And the guy says, what do you break out with? I said, handcuffs.
Yeah.
So he was a little nicer at that point. But yeah, thank you for the recognition. Yeah, I celebrated 41, and it was really nice. I was glad. I'm glad I'm sober. I'm glad I'm clean. I'm glad I'm able to, carry a message to people that need to hear it. And I don't hit anybody over the head with it, but I'm here to help when I can.
And you did the musicians picnic for like 25 years, which
Yeah,
I
and
think
we
is
did it. We
really cool.
resurrected it again this year, and we
You
did it.
did? Okay.
Yeah, we did it this year, and up in Topanga, in
Okay.
the at the Topanga Days area. So it was outdoors. It was really nice. Um, Walter Trout was nice enough to come and play it, and a whole bunch of people. And actually, that's where I met Walter 30 years ago.
It
He was
is.
playing with Canned Heat at the time, and that's how he and I met. Yeah. Um, he One of the songs on The Way of the World is called "Breathe,"
Yeah.
and, he recorded it on his new Broken album as well. That was
Oh, that's cool.
that was really cool and nice of him to do that. Yeah, musicians picnic saved a lot of
It,
people.
yeah. I mean, you had Clapton there yeah, at one point. I mean, you had over 5,000 musicians,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Clapton played it. Um, in fact, that was the 10th anniversary show. And if I recall, Clapton was kind of the speaker at the event, and then he put on a guitar because Dr. John was playing it with the big band, and he got out there to start to play with Dr. John, and they became really tight after that show because Mac Revenak, he got clean and sober, and they all hung out and they did an album together, and we had a lot of people came and supported that thing. Um, um, the picnic had Chicago did it for years, and Anthony Kiedis would come and support it, and a ton of Matt and Duff from Guns N' Roses, and we had like
Oh, nice.
all kinds of really cool bands that did
That's
it.
so cool. And I mean, because I'm sure in that community, I mean, it's kind of a rarity. I mean, especially rock and roll. I mean, you're obviously sex, drugs, rock and roll all go together, kind of together, right? And so to kind of have this bond and to say, okay, maybe we did some stuff and we've had our challenges, but we're focused and we're cleaning ourselves up and we're still, making great music and taking our lives back, right?
Exactly. Well, what was great about the picnic was that it showed musicians and it showed people that you didn't have to be loaded to get on stage and play, that you could do it. You could do it
Yeah.
clean and still come away with, a great performance. And I wasn't pandering to the masses in those days. It was this is the way it's got to be now. We lost too many people to things, and we still continue to lose people all the time,
Yeah.
that are great artists, or, that they didn't want to die of an overdose. It was an accidental overdose with all this fentanyl shit and whatnot going out now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. Um, During the pandemic, you did a podcast yourself, the Bear Facts,
The
and
bare facts, yeah.
one of the guests you had on was a friend of yours, Stephen Stills. You had a good chat with him, and you're talking about the werewolves of London,
In
which
my
you
pajamas, yeah, yeah.
yeah, you had to go out in your robe and that sort of thing and play that. Which it's funny. I was talking to the immediate family yesterday, and that's talking to Waddy watch all about Werewolves of London and his involvement on that. But what was it like for you to play Werewolves of London?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Cooch and I are really good
Hmm.
friends. Danny, and
Yeah, yeah.
we're really, really, really tight. He moved out of LA. He lives in um not Massachusetts, Rhode Island. He lives in Rhode Island now. He just moved there. Um, but yeah, I and they even do it in the key that I do it in. They do it in G, and I'm like, I love that song. And I was such a
Yeah,
Warren Zevon nut job. I loved Warren, and yeah, Waddy's a cool dude.
he's good.
He really lays it down, and he's a funny guy too. Um, this song, Red Harvest, that's the bonus song on Way of the World.
Mhm.
Lee Sklar plays on that. Leland's on that. He
Oh,
plays
okay.
bass. He plays bass on that. Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah, all of the family here.
Yeah,
So,
we're we're label mates, but I'm friends with those guys. You know, I go to see them, and they come to see me. It's fun.
Yeah. I wanted to
Stills,
dive.
you were saying Stills.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I had dinner with them the last two Monday nights. Yeah, and he's doing really, really well. You know, he's really clear and focused, and he's you know, he's doing really well these days, and he's got a project going with Neil Young now, so
Yeah.
that should be really interesting.
That's great that they're still making music together all these years later. I mean, that's so
I
cool.
I can tell you the story about Red Harvest if you like.
Share it. Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of interesting. So I wrote that thing like I said in like 10 or 15 minutes after seeing all that, and I called the owner of the label and I said, "Hey, Bruce Quarto," I said, I want to record this really fast, and I think we should put it out as um, a song that will generate some sort of income for the Ukrainian Red Cross and World Kitchen because they were feeding people and they had
Oh,
gone there to
nice.
feed people, right? So he said, "Well, let me see the lyrics. Let me see what you got." And I kind of did it really fast, and I did a little demo, and I sent it over to him. And he got back to me. He said, "Oh, it's fabulous, and let's do something." And I said, "Well, I want to get Crosby to sing on this." So I went in the studio and we started recording, and we got Lee Sklar and Tony Bronigal and um, Lawrence Juber and a lady that played violin and she was from that area, the world Ukraine Russia area, and and a few other people, and it was really coming out really nice. And I called up Crosby and I said, "Hey, Cros, I've got this song and this is what it's about, and we're going to try to raise some money for the Ukrainian, and we want to get it over there really fast. Can you come and sing on this thing?" He said, "All right, send it to me." So I sent it to him. One day, 2 days, crickets,
Mm.
nothing. So I called him back and I said really fast, I said, "Hey, what do you think?" And he says, "I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. I'll do it on the weekend." Okay. So weekend comes and goes, and finally I was like, "All right, we got to do something," because he's kind of dragging his feet on this. And Crosby could be like that. He could be either on top of it or just couldn't
Yeah,
find it
dodge
for a
it.
while.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what a talent, and what a voice, and what an angel. When he sang and played. And I get a phone call from somebody who says, "Hey, this is Paul. I want to sing with you." And I'm like, and I thought it was my lawyer, Paul Quinn, who's a Brit, who I
Yeah.
just spoke to that morning. And he said, "I'll call you back later." And I said, "You're a fucking lawyer. You're not a singer." He says, "No, this is Paul Rogers. I am a singer." I said, "Paul Rogers?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "How'd you get my number?" He says, "Oh, Bruce gave it to me. My wife knows Bruce very well, and he gave it to me." I said, "Oh, sorry about that. I thought you were my lawyer, who's a Brit too, named Paul. I thought he was
So you
just,
did,
I thought he was taking the piss, And
yeah.
he says, "No, no, I heard this demo, and I heard this, and I saw the lyrics, and my wife is Ukrainian descent. I want to do this with you." I said, "Done."
Oh,
And I never spoke to Crosby again about it. But he was the first choice. Crosby was, and then
yeah.
Paul. I sent it to him, and like it was, yeah. Look at that.
Like me when I'm 10 or something,
Oh
there
my
would be
God, look at that.
Crosby in an airport.
Look at him looking.
I know, right? I
Oh,
didn't know who he was. I didn't know who he
that's
was.
great, man.
But
That's
my mom
great.
did, and
That's
that
great.
works. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I love Crosby and his wife Jan. I love them dearly. But Paul, I sent it to Paul, and it was done within 48 hours, and it came back, and it was great. And the duet sounds really, really really nice, and that's why we put it on the thing as a bonus track. But I thought you'd like
Yeah.
the Crosby thing with, that the backstory.
Oh, I did, and I had a picture ready. I used it yesterday with immediate family guys because Steve is in the Crosby loop also and doing some of the shit. So yeah, I mean it's a loss. It's a loss, but
It's a terrible loss. I last time I saw him, you kind of in person was at Mike Finnegan's memorial. Um,
mm,
but him and Stills were sitting together, and I was sitting right by them, and he looked at me and gave me a big, hello, and Jan gave me a big hug, and then I hadn't really hung with him at all. But Steve Postel, was supposed to do a show with him.
yeah,
Uh,
he told me, yeah, right before he was talking to
yeah,
him like the day
in
before
Santa
even or
Barbara. They were
something.
they were
Yeah,
they were heading to Santa Barbara. They were in rehearsals, and that was a big surprise to everybody. So it's
yeah,
unfortunate. Yeah, unfortunate.
yeah. Yeah, and Steve's gonna be out here in Napa, like at the end of in July, and so I'm trying to get out to that show because they got a whole family thing, like
Right.
the Crosby show for with his family, and I'm like, it'd be so cool to be there and be a part of that.
Oh, that's
Like
going to be great. It's
yeah,
going to be a
yeah,
great honoring, honoring him.
yeah. So that's cool. So one other thing on Steven Stills, the Give It Up, the story with Give It Up is pretty cool because this is a song that like from '82, and like you pulled out the tapes. I'll let you share the story because it's just such a great
Well,
story.
what was great about it was, I got to play with CSNN, and I
Yeah,
did Southern Cross with them. I played keyboards on that, right? And then I was in Steven's band, all right? And when I went out touring with Steven, the guys would fly home, and Steven would want to stay in New Orleans for a week or so, or 4 or 5 days, because his family was, in Alabama next door or something. So um, we'd hang out, and I always brought like a little cassette recorder, and we'd start writing things, and we'd have a keyboard and whatnot, and got stuff, and then we'd come back to LA and maybe do a demo of it or figure it out. And that's the last I remember, until I found the shoebox in my warehouse, and went through like all these boxes in the shoebox, and I opened the shoebox, and it's got all these tapes, and I'm looking at CSNN this, and then I see one says Stills Bear, and I picked this thing up, and I don't even have a cassette player. I went out and bought one.
I was gonna ask because like I don't even know how I'd play. It's kind of like this. I
I
have
had to
tapes
buy
of
a cassette player,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah, yeah.
I wanted to hear
You
some of these things,
you
because
got to get to it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I put it in, I hit play, I turn it up, and I said, "Holy shit, what's that?" And this song called "Give It Up," right? And the next song after that was something called "Who Dat,"
yeah.
and I went back, I rewound it, I'm going to play this again, and I went, wow, that's got meat, that's got bones, this has got some life to it. So I started to play it, and I love this little catchy thing, and I'm going like, okay, I like the descending chords, I like this chorus, let's find a bridge. And I made a quick bridge, and then went in the studio, and then I called Steven up, and I said, hey, I found a song that you and I wrote, and it's like 100 years old. It's on a cassette. And I said, I cut it. I said, I need you to like play some guitar on it. And he said, oh, okay. Do I have to go anywhere? I said, no, no, no. We could do it up in your studio. He said, all right. So we go up there, he plays on it. It's great. And then Walter Trout's in the studio where I was recording, and he's doing overdubs on some things, and he starts to play lines against Steven, and they're trading licks now. And I went, oh, this is really good. And that's the story of Give It Up. I mean, it was it was meant to be, you know.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I know, I mean, I don't make music, but I've been interviewing bands since I was like 18 or something. And so I have boxes of tapes and formats that I can't even, and shows from back then, and all these memories that just follow me around. So, and one day when I have a month to just spare or something, and I'd love to sit down and digitize them so I can actually, not just sit down and watch them, but have access to, at least just because there's gold in some of that stuff too.
Oh, for sure. Can we pause for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. I got to use the restroom.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
Thank you so
You
much.
got it. While we broke, I like to look at tickets and the concert, for concerts that are going on, and kind of pretend I get to go to these shows, sort of thing. Like Aerosmith's Peace Out farewell tour went on sale today, and it's just like, okay, for floor tickets, it's $1,500 plus ticket charges and everything. It's like, well, I guess I'd get to live vicariously through that time where I snuck down to fourth row and Steven Tyler swung over my head on like 20 whatever years ago. Like, I'll just live with that memory because they can piece out at those prices.
Man, when I think of the shows that I saw when I was a kid,
yeah,
kind of a kid, at the Fillmore East,
mm-hmm.
and the tickets were like $6. That was like the high. That was like the. It was like $4, $5, or $6.
Yeah,
Come on,
and you went to some shows there. You started getting in for free, but you went to some freaking shows at the Fillmore East that are just like mind blowing.
I saw Led Zeppelin open for Iron Butterfly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Good Lord.
The Fillmore East. Yeah, I have memories of the Fillmore West, which is my favorite venue of all time. Like, it's legendary, but just those memories inside what you can just call it the Fillmore, and it's just magical.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think one of the best shows I saw, which changed my life, was Mad Dogs and Englishmen.
Okay.
And it was, Joe Cocker, Mad Dogs and Englishmen.
And
Leon Russell was the music director. Jim Keltner was the drummer. Jim Gordon was the other drummer. Bobby Keys was on sax. Good Lord. Chris Staten. And all these people ended up at Rita Coolidge, Claudia Lanier, Donna Washburn, Jesse Ed Davis. I mean, all these people went on to like fabulous careers.
yeah.
And I saw this band and I was like, this Leon Russell guy just mesmerized me. It was like Svengali,
Yeah.
it was like this. I was like, wow, Dumbledore, is up there, or the wizard in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf.
Right.
Gandalf, that's who he was,
And so how did it change your life?
I wanted to do that from that moment on. From that moment on, I wanted to be a musician. Yeah. I saw, like that year, John Prine at an open mic night in New York City, and then I wanted to be a writer. So the combination of those two things, Leon Russell, John Prine, that was it. I was off to the races.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make brassieres.
Yeah.
That's what my father had a brassiere company.
Didn't want to follow in the family footsteps?
I didn't. No, I didn't want to. I said, Dad, we could cut them in half and make yarmulkes,
You could get innovative here.
You shouldn't know from it.
And you can make twice as many of them too.
Right.
And that's awesome. But so talking about kind of making music, going back to making music, I mean, your story's pretty interesting to me, and like I think you paused because like you stopped because of your first wife, I think, right?
Yeah, I stopped because the first wife that I had children with said, "No more music for you." like no more touring, no more this, no more that. You want to play the occasional, session. If it's in town, yeah, okay. If you're making money, but no more going on the road, no more going here, going there, no more Europe for you, things like that.
I,
And
I had
that
kind of
was
the same
that.
sort of thing, and before we get to the Nina, I had kind of the same sort of thing with my ex-wife, and like concerts and going to concerts, and like I was interviewing my favorite musician, Andrew McMahon is his name, and like on my daughter's fourth birthday at a day show in Golden Gate Park, she's running around in the field, and I asked him what he got planned for the show, and it was in between bands that he had, and he's like, I'm playing Everything in Transit, actually this album in its entirety. And my mind was blown. And I'm like, that's so freaking amazing. I get to see the album, my favorite album in its entirety. And she's like, hey, our daughter's not having fun. I'm like, she's just running around in the field, being a 4-year-old. My ex-wife wasn't, and she was not about it, like, and everything. And she made us leave after 3 songs, and I was resentful. Like,
Oh yeah,
I was
yeah, you would get a resentment from that.
like a 38-minute album. Come on, we can hang, but no, I had to go, and luckily years later he did a 10th anniversary and played it in its entirety, and then I think I got to see it one other time, but because it's a special album. But yeah, I get it. Sorry, I interrupted your story with my own story.
Oh no, 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 no. I loved hearing yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that. And after 20 years, I'd provided a good life for everybody. They had a house. Um, I just couldn't be married anymore. I felt myself, kind of fading away from where I needed to be, and got divorced, and then met Nina, um, and and it was how I met her was kind of interesting. I'll break my anonymity, but she asked me to speak at an AA meeting. She was the
Mm.
secretary of a meeting, and it was literally walking distance from where I ended up living. And she said, "Oh, I got your name from a guitar player that used to play with you." I said, "Oh, really?" And she gave me the guy's name, and she said he gave me some other musicians because I want some musicians to be my speakers. I want to go for that, that kind of a vibe for the meeting. And I said, okay. So I went and met her, and went out after the meeting because we have a thing called fellowship, and a bunch of people from the meeting went out, I got 8 or 10 of us, and I went to this pretty cool meeting, and she had lined up some other musicians, and I won't break their anonymity, but there were some pretty cool musicians that I wanted to hear their stories, you know, um, some British guys and things like that. And I went, oh, okay. I'll come next week and the week after. And then I started going there, and I kind of looked at her, and she kind of looked at me, and I was, literally going through the divorce at that time. Papers were filed, separation was filed, everything, and um, I said, you want to go out, for coffee with me? And she says, yeah, when you're divorced is final, you know,
So
and
made you
that's,
wait.
yeah. And that was that. And it wasn't quite final, but we started seeing each other, but it was pretty close to final. And, I dug her, and she was, and what was really interesting is she loved all the music that I loved, and
Yeah.
every time I ever came over to her house, it was like a sound check, everything was turned way up, you know, and Bowie
Yeah.
was singing about something, or the Who Quadrophenia
Mm.
was on, or all this really good shit, and old Beatles stuff, and from not the new Beatles stuff, a lot of old Beatles stuff, and there's some Stones stuff, from the day, and all this really cool shit, Kinks, and you know, wow, she
Yeah.
got good ears,
Someone who gets it and just,
Yeah, she
yeah,
gets it
in the
right,
lines.
and
Yeah.
and I kind of, I fell for her, and we fell in love, and then about a year and a half, 2 years later, I married her, and I kept going to work at my lighting company, Bear Lighting,
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
where I worked for many, many years. And she said, that's cool that you have that you have a gig, because that's one reason why I'm going to date you or go out with you or marry you, because you're one of the few musicians I know that has a day job.
Yeah.
And she goes, I don't know many that do, And I said, well, this is what I've been doing, and she said, but now it's time for you to make music. And she nagged me for almost a year or two, maybe 2 years. And
Yeah.
finally I gave in and relented and started writing songs. She was sitting across from the piano at her desk because she went back to school, went back to Santa Monica College, then UCLA to get her degree. And I would write songs and she'd go, that's a hook. And I would write something else. And she goes, don't hear it. And I go something else. And how about this? And she goes, that's a hook, and it was good. She has really good ears. And I went in the studio and Robbie, like, I think you know the story, but Robbie Krieger was very generous. I was doing a session there and he came through the studios, he owned the studio and he says, so when are you going to make a record here? I said, well, I'm not signed to any label and I don't have really deep pockets. Just went through a divorce and, I don't know, Robbie. He said, well, I'll tell you what, you can have the studio, you pay the engineer
And Ginger. Yeah.
and make a record. And I said,
Yeah.
really? He says, yeah, but there's only one caveat. I said, what's that? He says, I got to play on it. And I said, fair enough. I'll find room for you. And went in there and everyone showed up on that record. I mean, oh, fuck.
Before we get to the record, let
yeah.
me ask you, because you said it took a year or two of resisting. Why did you resist kind of getting back into music? Were you just not ready?
I'll tell you why.
Mhm, mhm.
Because I was really scared and apprehensive, and I didn't know if I had it still. And
Yeah.
when my hands hit the keyboards, it was like big chunks of rust falling off of me. I didn't know if I still had it. It wasn't a matter of, I think it was panic, panic. I just gone through a horrible divorce.
Yeah.
I was trying to keep myself afloat in two households because you got to pay for the kids and the ex-wife, and then you got a new wife, right? So there's all this going on, and do I have room for this? Do I have time for this? Am I going to be any good at this?
Yeah.
I was second guessing myself. I didn't live in faith. I was living in fear. And fear is the acronym for fear. We call it false evidence appearing real. And and it wasn't until I started writing and Nina was going, oh, that's a hook, that's good, that's really, and then Robbie, and I'm going, these planets are starting to align, so maybe I should just, maybe my higher power's got a plan here, and he didn't throw my file away. So that's why I resisted.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I get it. It's scary. It's going into the unknown. It's been a long time since you had making music, and I mean, a lot's
A long
changed too.
time since I was
Yeah.
making my own music.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Or any original or new music.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I went and did that. Recorded 23 tracks,
Yep.
21 originals, 2 covers. The 2 covers were "She's Not There," which is on the first album,
Right.
and the second cover was "A Salty Dog" by Procol Harum, which I
And that
wrote.
didn't make it onto the second album either, right? Like,
No,
where did that end up?
it's going to go on the Book of Secrets. I can tell you that.
Okay, good. Because I caught
Yeah.
that second one didn't make it in the first or yeah.
No, it would have gone on the second album, The Way of the World, but Red Harvest went on as the bonus track. So
Okay.
yeah, we had a problem of abundance. I had a lot of songs, and we had,
It's a good
yeah,
problem to
I
have
got,
because now you have your music, and
yeah, we had like 16 or 17 songs, and we had to pick 12, you know.
yeah,
And they had to kind of fit and go into in a certain way. Um, so that's how, you know, Fresh Bear Tracks came about. And she got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, wasn't given long to live, and she made me promise to finish the album, never cancel another gig, because I had a really good band at the time in LA. Um, and
find love again.
yeah, she said, go out on the road, be as happy as you can be, and fall in love again. And you know, that's a recipe for life and for success, and for somebody that truly loves you so much that can write that down in it. And you know, I think of that every day. Actually, every day there isn't a day that goes by that those words don't resonate in my head.
Yeah,
And you know, thank God for her, because she I would not have these records if it wasn't for her. You know, Nina's responsible. And the last song on the Fresh Bear Tracks album is called Nina's Song.
Nina song.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful, beautiful tribute to her. And she wrote the string parts, by the way. Stevie Black played them, but she kind of laid them out there because she played piano as well. I didn't know if you knew that. And
Yeah.
um, I was in Paris last spring, and the guy from Paris radio said, "Oh, by the way, we love Nina's Song, and we play it all the time on Paris radio. It's so
Oh,
sentimental, and it's such a beautiful tribute that we love things like that." So I went, "Oh, thank you so much."
yeah.
So that was Fresh Bear Tracks. Then along comes you know, the COVID world, and I didn't know what to do because, you know, we're locked away. So I started writing another album, and it turned out to be the way of the world, this one. And
Yeah.
so
Uh,
what do you want to know about that one?
Oh, I mean, I got questions, but you mentioned COVID and kind of not knowing what to do, and a lot of people were kind of in that same kind of sort of no one knew what to do, right? But but it kind of brings to get a question for me because you have so many stories, and obviously this is a
Well,
great platform for it.
here's my COVID story. My COVID
Okay,
story is, you know, Nina dies. My house is deafeningly silent,
yeah,
and it's unbelievably hard because she passed away here in the house. And I kept wanting her to come back in some way to let me know that she was okay, or that I'm okay. And one night I was sitting on and this is a true story. I'm sitting at the piano, and the cat, Delilah, my Compton sister. She's a sister from Compton, and Delilah, she's looking at me, and I said, "Come on up to the bench," because she had a boyfriend that passed away, Mowgli. When Nina died, Mowgli died, and I
oh
think his
wow,
heart was broken. Um,
oh
and so Mowgli used to sit on the bench where I played piano, and I would you know, tap on the bench, and Mowgli jump up on the bench, and we'd play. And I looked at Delilah, and she would always go by my feet where the pedals were, and she'd get in the way. So I said, "Come on, up here." And I tapped like 3 times, or, "Come on the bench. Come on, Delilah, get up here." And I hit it like 5 times this time. And all of a sudden, from across the room and from a cabinet,
yeah, yeah,
more bangs. I said, "Holy
wow,
shit, Nina's back,"
yeah,
you know, or something.
something, yeah.
Something's, you know, but I thought it was you know, her spirit or something. So I go over to the cabinet, and if I could have, if we were on my phone right now, I could show you the cabinet. It's a long, slim cabinet, and inside it it's got all of Nina's VHS videotapes from those days, VHS.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
She's got, I don't know, 80, 90. She used to love all the, old movies and
yeah.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. She got all those movies in there, right? And I open the cabinet up and I look, and there's like 6 of them that are out, or 7 of them that have come out of where they sat.
Yeah.
One is like practical magic, and the other one's something, about ghosts and something, and then a bunch of shit like that. And I'm going, oh man, she's telling me something.
Yeah.
And I sit down, and a little later, and I turn on the TV, and it says, yeah, today we've had a 4.8 earthquake. I don't know if you folks have felt it in Los Angeles. And I'm going, oh shit, it was an earthquake. It knocked all that stuff, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I went, mm.
But but you felt that presence, and
But I
you
did feel
you
that
felt
presence.
her.
I feel that presence.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
that presence sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
and God bless her. I miss her, and but she inspired me to do what I do. And that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Such a
And she'll be in
positive
my
force
she'll
in
be in
your
my
life.
heart and my soul forever, forever.
Yeah. And that's what I'm getting. I mean, you have so many stories. I mean, and so like such a history. I mean, you need to make a book, or get it in writing. Like,
I
I
could
mean, you
write a
have the
book
music.
about. Well, I have a line in River of Resurrection. I could write a book about the things I don't know, but the river is calling, and I got to go.
Yeah,
You know.
it's just too busy living life to slow down and write the book, right? So about it.
Well, it's funny. You're not the first person that said that, and I'm thinking about it. But here's the thing. It was COVID, right, that hit, and um, now I couldn't go out. So now I'm forced to be home. I'm forced to, stay in the silence. And what will I do? So I start writing stories that get me out of my house. So
Yeah.
um, I talk with a therapist that I know, this woman, not she wasn't my therapist, but we were friends. And I said to her, I said, Dr. Karen, I said, so what are you going to do with this COVID thing going on now? She said, oh, well, I can't go to my office, but I'll Zoom with my patients. And I said, well, what are you telling your patients? She says, well, I tell them we can all get through this together one day at a time. And I'm going, I've heard that one day at a time thing for 10,000 times, in AA and in those 12-step groups, one day at a time. I said, but that's a great hook. So I sat down at the
Yeah.
piano and I wrote the song One Day at a Time. I kind of channeled John Prine, and I call my friend Mark Foster the People.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, let's go in the studio and cut this thing. And we got Lawrence Juber and Tony Bronico, and we all went in and cut it and put it out.
Yeah.
Just as a single. And I went, you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity when there's nothing going on outside my house to write things inside my house. And that's what I started doing. I wrote a song. Well, I wrote a story called Walter Mitty's Glasses. Started
Yeah.
writing short stories.
I had to look up who Walter Mitty was, to be honest. So I wasn't familiar. So yeah.
Okay, Walter
Yeah.
Mitty was a fella that was kind of a nerdy kind of guy who worked at a like an insurance firm or something, and he was like, he figure out the odds, or however they do it at insurance places. And I remember it from the 60s or something. It was a movie. Danny Kaye or somebody was played Walter Mitty, and he would daydream, and he would think he was a a hero policeman saving the day, or a fireman that went up in a burning building and carried some damsel in distress down, and all this. And then about 10 years ago, there was a remake of Walter Mitty.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was Sean Penn, Kristen Wiig, um, and I can't think of his name right now, but a really good actor. Oh, his parents were like comedic
Ben
actors.
Stiller, right? Wasn't it?
Ben
Wasn't
Stiller,
it Ben?
right? Ben Stiller,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I thought.
And they put
Yeah.
that out, and Walter Mitty, right? And so I decided I'm going to write a story called Walter Mitty's Glasses. And what happens is this guy walks into a flea market, and he goes up to a counter, and he looks at things, and he goes to the next counter, and he's looking for things, and he goes to another counter, and it's full of glasses, right? And he goes and he
Yeah.
picks up a pair of glasses and looks at himself in the mirror, and he goes, nah. He goes up and gets another one. And he goes, nah. And he goes up and gets another one, and he goes, and there's somebody else looking back at him. And he's like, takes it off, and it's him.
Yeah.
Puts him back on. And it's this handsome guy with a nice pompadour and a tan, and he's the hero now. So, and he says to the owner of the shop, he says, "Where'd you get these glasses?" He says, "I don't know. They come in a box. There's like 100 every time I buy them." And he looks at him. He says, "Property of Walter Mitty" on the side of the glass.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So that's the bones behind, or the backstory behind Walter Mitty's glasses. And he goes to a party, puts on these glasses, and the hottest chick in the place is going to be his. He thinks in his mind. And he goes from place to place, and that's the song. And I wanted to do it in kind of reggae it. So I kind of did like a British reggae.
I like it. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's a good,
So that's the
good,
story of
good
Walter
song.
Mitty's Glasses, and it's an homage. Every song on The Way of the World is an homage to somebody or something.
Okay.
The Way of the World, the song
Yeah.
itself, is an homage to Bob Dylan. It's what would Bob Dylan write? And these are the things that I think he would write about, if you listen to those lyrics. Jewel, the story Jewel.
Yeah, the lyrics in that, I mean, I like you weaved into, like, you kind of sidestepped it a little bit, the musician Jewel in the lyrics, if I remember. I don't remember the exact lyric, but I did.
Do you know the story, Jewel? The story of this song?
I don't.
I always have stories of my songs, and I will tell you this one because it's pretty interesting. I went out on a date with a girl called Julie, and she works for the last 38 years for Lou Adler. You know who Lou Adler is?
Name's familiar. Remind me.
Okay. Lou Adler is the producer of Carole King's Tapestry.
Okay.
Mamas and Papas.
Mm-hmm.
Cheech and Chong movies. Part owner of a bunch of iconic restaurants in the Roxy in LA.
Okay.
Sits at the Laker games in the front row on the court right next to Jack Nicholson.
Okay.
So anytime the camera pans, you see a guy in a white cap next to Jack, that's Lou Adler. And Lou Adler's like a huge guy in LA. I mean, he's like the guy, He had a piece of A&M Records, huge guy. So Julie worked for Lou Adler, still does, for 40 years. And I went out on a date with her, and she was, interesting person. And I said to her, I said, "Well, how is it to work for Lou?" She goes, "Well, Lou is great. He takes good care of me. I take good care of him." I said that, and we talk a little bit about it. I said, hey, you got a nickname? Any nicknames? And she says, yeah, I nickname is Jewel. I said, how'd you get that? She goes, well, Lou sits next to Jack at the Laker games, and I deliver tickets to Jack to give for some of his friends when Lou's not going to be there at a game. And so one day Jack said to me, Julie, you're no longer Julie. You're now Jewel from now on, because you drove all the way over here to give me a ticket for somebody else, and you're going to be my Jewel from now on. So that it stuck. And every time he saw her, I said, Jewel. He wouldn't call her Julie from then on. I said, well, that's a great name. I said, I'm going to write you a song. And I'm thinking I'm going to impress this girl, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And she looked at me and she said, you wouldn't be the first. I said,
Ooh.
oh,
Okay.
right? She threw down.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, oh shit.
Is
I
it
said,
is it
okay, who wrote your song? She goes,
Mick? No.
she goes, JD Souther.
Okay.
You know who JD Souther is?
That's another one of those I should know.
He's
But
like writes the songs with the Eagles.
okay, okay.
He's like, you like you like an Eagles song? He's on it. He's one of the
He's on
writers,
there.
things like that. He's a big LA writer. And I said, oh, I'm in shit now. So, and then I listened to the song and I was like, that I thought he wrote her, and it could have been for anybody, it could have been for
Yeah.
any woman, so I said, the only difference between him and me is, Julie, you're going to know it's for you, because I'm going to let you know that you're in the song. I'm going to mention you. So that's how Jewel came about. The other way it came about was, it's my homage to Leon Russell,
Mm.
because I was looking in the Leon Russell songbook, and I went through all his songs and stuff one day, and I went, and there was this really weird chord, and I played it, and I went, oh shit, that's brilliant, that chord. And I played it, and then I descended it a little bit, like one half step down, and I went, da-da, and I went, oh, that's really beautiful. So I was writing Jewel at the time, and I went to the bridge, and I went, I'll throw this chord in there, and it fit. And I went, okay, cool. So that's how Jewel came about, and Jewel's the homage to Leon and to Julie. Are you a
I
diamond,
like it.
you know, or a precious gem? You got your nickname Jewel from your famous friend.
Okay, okay. So, see, I was thinking it was for Jewel the musician, that sort of thing. That's where I was reading into that. But hearing the story now, I mean, I get, I love that there's a story for each song.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah,
People will think it's about Jewel, the singer, but it's not.
yeah. No, that's great.
That's
Uh,
the inside on that one.
I like it. It's a great album, and I need to go back and listen to it with that new lens now, and kind of the Dylan kind of impact as well. I mean, it'll. I dig it though. It's good.
Dinner for One. That's an homage to Buena Vista Social Club.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever
So
watched that.
I feel like I've seen it at some point again. I feel like I'm missing all these references now, and I so much I need to catch up on.
Yeah. Let's see. This Bird Has Flown, an homage to the Beatles.
Okay. I've heard of that. So
Because that line is in This Bird Has Flown is in one of the Beatles songs.
okay.
Um, Before the Fall, that's an homage to Mozart and Brian Wilson
Mhm.
and Amy Winehouse.
Wow, that's a combo. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sign on the Dotted Line. That's be careful what you wish for. You may get it. Like no good deed goes unpunished.
Right.
What
Right.
goes around
Yeah.
comes around. You know.
Yeah.
True Romance is just I wanted to write a beautiful love song that someone could dance to at their wedding. So that was that. It's an homage to true love. Red Harvest, I told you what that's about.
Mhm.
And breathe is therapy, therapy, not therapy, therapy.
Therapy. T-therapy. Yeah.
And it's all about when you have nowhere, you don't know what to do, life's really beat you down, or there's problems that you cannot contend with at that moment. Just breathe, because
Yeah.
sometimes that's all you can do. And so that was written in the COVID world. And I get asked to sing that song so many times. Walter heard that song, Walter Trout, and he went, "Oh, can I record that?" And I went, "Sure, sure." And so
Yeah.
that's if you don't want to pay your therapist 150 or $200 for the hour, just put that on a few
Just
times.
pop a song on. Yeah.
That's it. And
It'll
it's
get you through it.
yeah,
Remind you that, you
it'll
can
totally
breathe,
get you through that. Yeah.
slow down, and you'll get through the hard times. Yeah.
So I'm proud of
So
this album. It's
it's
you know, it was done completely differently than Fresh Bear Tracks. I wasn't in a studio per se. I was at Lawrence Juber's house. We did this in the house. We
oh
sent
wow. Okay.
we sent the tracks when we didn't track. I played to a click um, on the piano or a keyboard, then
Yeah.
Lawrence would put in some guitar, and then we get a bass player. Um, like we sent it to Hutch when he was out, Hutch Hutchison, who plays with Bonnie Raitt. He's out
Yeah.
in the bus and he gets the stems and he puts the bass down, or he's in his hotel room, or somebody, or comes into Lawrence's house if the bass player was around. Tony Bronigal would put the drums on at his house. And so this was all done in house. This is the house.
Yeah.
This was a house project. And the only two songs that were done differently were Dinner for One. I did a real piano over at JJ Blair's, the guy that mixed this, and also Jewel. We cut Jewel live. That was the only
You
thing that
did.
we cut. The vocals live, the piano's live, the band is live. It's all done in one take over at JJ's house. That was the only other one that was done it, and it wasn't. I guess it was a studio, but it was in his house, so it was all
Yeah.
home.
Exactly.
Yeah, home
That's
cooking.
really cool. Yeah. Well, T-Bear, I mean, I love it, and there's so many great stories, and I love it, and I look forward to more stories when the next album comes out because you already got that one
Well, the
cooking. So
next the next one is the Book of Secrets, and
yes.
it's interesting because every song is a chapter in the book. It's going to be chapters. Um, the Book of Secrets is a song about J.D. Salinger, the guy that wrote
Catcher in Their Eye, Catcher in
Catcher in
Their
the
Eye.
Rye,
Yeah.
about him and his
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And then the next chapter is going to be No Reservations, and that's about Anthony Bourdain. Uh,
Okay. Got it. Yep.
and then it goes to people like that.
Yeah.
And then if I can do it, I wrote during COVID an 18-minute song, 11 pages of lyrics.
Wow.
It's my kind of rock opera.
Hmm.
And it's called Henry, the Greatest Show on Earth. And it's really about me, but it starts in 1951 with a kid is like 10 years old, 11 years old, 10 years old in Homestead, Florida. And his father's an abusive alcoholic, and his mother has passed away the year before. And he gets on a train in the middle of the night because his mother comes to him in his dream, in his sleep, and says, "You got to leave tonight. You got to get out of here. Your father's is no good for you." And he
Wow.
lives in the back of a bait and tackle shop that his father owns out in the boonies. And the train comes by in the middle of the night. He gets on the train and he has like a handful of coins and he gives it to the conductor. He says, "How far will this get me?" He says, "Well, we'll put you off in the morning when we get to the middle of the state." So he gets out of the train. It's pitch black. He hears this thud, thud, thud come walking by. The train pulls out from the station there, and he's in the middle of nothing, and it's black, and it's kind of muggy and hot, and here's this thud 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 weird smell, and the sun starts to come up a little bit, and it's now gray light, and this shape becomes an elephant as it walks by, and another elephant, and he looks across the street. Now the sun's a little higher, and he sees a banner, and it says, "Winter home with the greatest show on earth, Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus." His name is Travis Dupree. He smells food from across the street in a tent, and there's a woman outside and looks at him, and she waves him over. And he comes over, and she says, "I'm the cook here. You hungry?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, come on in. I'll feed you." She sits him down and feeds him. And she says, "All right, when you finish, you got to help me clean up now." He says, "Okay." She goes, "What's your name?" He says, "I can't tell you, ma'am." She goes, "Well, I don't want to call you Hey. Come over here. Well, give me your name." And he says, "I'm sorry, I can't tell you," because he's afraid he's going to get sent back. She says, "Okay, we're going to call you Henry." And he says, "Why Henry?" She goes, "Because in the circus, we speak in codes. And Henry is code for runaway." So
Wow.
from that moment on, he stays with the circus until 2017. From 1951 to 2017, you follow his entire life through the circus till he's an old man. And that's the last show Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus ever has. And he leaves the show, gets back on a train, and he says, "My name is Travis Dupree, and that's not the last you're going to hear of me." So it's an 18-minute story.
I look forward to hearing it. Yeah.
Thank you for taking your
Yes.
valuable time and being interested in T-Bear. And
I love T-Bear. I love the stories. I love the music. It's great, and I'd love catching up with you again as well. And hopefully next time you're on the playing a show around the Bay, that I can check it out too. So
yeah. If I come through, let me know. I'm going to be doing some dates with Mike Zito. I don't know if he's whether I'm going to be up that way or not, but I'll let you know.
That was my interview with T-Bear here on Concert Pipeline, and that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. I got a couple stories to wind us out here today. I will keep it brief. We've got a long episode, so first story up is about Blur. They played 2 weekends at Coachella and just finished weekend 2 this past weekend. And Damon Albarn says that their weekend 2 show is probably their last gig. And so that they're going to be going on hiatus until further notice. Let's see, as he prepared to launch into their song Tender, the last song of the night, Albarn confided to the crowd, "In the spirit of clarity and truth, this is probably our last gig." It comes after Albarn stated in December that the band would be going on hiatus until further notice, saying, "It's too much for me. It's time to wrap up this campaign. It was the right thing to do and an immense honor to play these songs again, spend time with these guys, make an album, blah, blah, blah." Those are his words. He said, "I'm not saying I won't do it again. It was a beautiful success, but I'm not dwelling on the past." So this band, most notable for their song Blur, Song 2, chose weekend 2 of Coachella to call it quits. And so we'll see if anything comes from them anymore. I've never seen them live. Don't have a lot of investment, but that is the news. Taylor Swift surprised her fans by revealing the Tortured Poets Department is a double album sharing the anthology in full. I think it's like 30 songs, and there's a lot of people that are noted on it, and people are diving into it and looking for all the references. I think there was a pub that was mentioned that people have been flocking to because it's just mentioned in Taylor Swift's album. It was a secret double album. She said, the Tortured Poets Department is a secret double album. I had written so much tortured poetry in the past 2 years and wanted to share it all with you. So here's the second installment of TDPD, the anthology, 15 extra songs. And now the story isn't mine anymore. It's all yours. Um, I don't know. People seem excited about it because it's Taylor Swift, but from what I've heard from from people who are fans, they're not the most impressed by the this album. It's not the most poppy. It seems more mature, and maybe they don't like that for Taylor Swift. I don't know much. I don't really have a vested interest either way. So don't know, but that's out if you want to get it. If you haven't heard it yet, I'm surprised if you're a Taylor Swift fan that you haven't heard it yet. So who knows? Guns N' Roses' Axl Rose launched his own website, leaving fans wondering what's coming. Maybe he's getting into the wine business. Axl Rose Rosé, joked one fan. And there's been no explanation from Rose as to what his new website is for or what it means when it comes to the legendary rock band. The landing page of the site features draggable photos of Rose, video clips in the background, his autograph, and the quote, "You gotta live and to learn and run, or you'll die trying." The site's about page reads, "Unmistakable vocal style. He has carved out a legendary status in the rock history, along with a brief biography of Rose's life and career with Guns N' Roses." The news tab features articles about the band's 2023 single, "The General," and the gallery tab is home to a plethora of photos of Rose performing on stage. Is he going to be going solo? Is this just him sharing his biography and resources with the world? It's There's a lot of fan speculation that's happening. People are have fingers crossed for either a book or some solo material. If he wrote a book, I'd read it for sure. He's got stories, and he's lived a life, and I would be interested in that story for sure. So we will see what happens there. Okay, and to close out the program, Foo Fighters story about Josh Freese and Dave Grohl. About Josh Freese shared on how Dave Grohl asked him to join the band. He's the Foo Fighters' newest drummer. He took over after Taylor Hawkins passed away. He said, "It's almost like I got the wind knocked out of me," and I was like, "Oh my god." He recalls the moment. Let's see, before he headed on the road with Grohl and company and supported their latest album, but here we are. He'd previously performed on stage with the group at the Taylor Hawkins tribute concert in LA and London. And during a new interview, he says, "I was on a walk with my wife and some of our dogs, and I go, Dave just tried calling me like 20 minutes ago," he said. And she's like, "I know why he's calling you." I was like, "Easy, I'm not thinking that. I swear to God, that's not what I thought. What I thought he was calling." Freeze continued. I go, "Do you know what? He might be having a New Year's Eve party. He might be doing a project where he has all those drummer friends of ours that performed at the tribute show." When he eventually called Grohl back, the pair small talked about Christmas and their kids before the conversation turned to Foo Fighters' future. I said, "Hey, did you go record?" He goes, "Yeah, we recorded a bunch of stuff, and I played drums, and I'm really happy with the way it sounds. I'm really excited about it." And we had the drummer talk, and we want you to be the guy. Free said he felt like someone knocked the wind out of his stomach, explaining, "I didn't go, wow, yippee, this is so cool. I didn't get excited like that. It was almost like I got the wind knocked out of me, and I was like, oh my God." It went on. I was like, "Here we go," because I knew I had time to think about it and all that. There's some times when you go, you've got to do this, right? It couldn't have been gone down the other way after being asked, and being asked by someone that I've respected forever, not just as a songwriter and as a singer guitarist, but as a drummer. Prieston called Grohl such a bad motherfucker who possesses something that can't be taught. So it goes on from there. But needless to say, he said yes to the gig. So pretty exciting, and excited to see Foo Fighters in August when they come around to the Bay Area. That'll be a lot of fun. So next time on the program, I will share more information about the Ben Queller show, that I got to see this weekend. It was a lot of fun. I won't spoil it. We're going to dedicate the next episode to that most likely. So for all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time.